Hi, I am back. I am going to be reading to you another story from Critters, Flitters, and Spitters Rixosh. American Bald Eagles. Did you ever wonder how we know so much about wild animals and how they hunt, mate, and raise their young? We know because someone went to a lot of trouble to observe them. Here's the story of a man who went to an awful lot of trouble. Lightning struck with a hiss of doom. Thunder broke so near that Charles Shipman's teeth rattled. The afternoon storm spit fire and spouted rain. Scary enough for someone safe and dry at home, peeking out a window. But Charles was weathering the storm inside a tent on a platform atop an 8-story steel tower. The storm lashed the forest below, stripping off leaves. Then the raindrops turned to hailstones, thumping the canvas walls of the tent. The branches of a nearby tree beat upon the tower. The platform leaned and swayed, groaning at every blast. Charles clung to the floor. If the tower blew over, he'd be killed for sure. The tent flap ripped open, and he caught a glimpse of the top of a neighboring tree. It was swaying even more than the tower, but the mother eagle that had made her nest there had not flown to safety. Instead, she was braving the hailstones, guarding her young. Even the worst storm is soon over. The wind died, the rain slowed, the thunder grew distant. 15 minutes later, sunlight made everything glisten. The tower was still standing, Charles was still at his post, and the bald eagle was at hers. Charles Shipman, amateur naturalist, was determined to learn all he could about bald eagles, no matter what. The bird had been America's national symbol since 1782, but little was known about it in 1925 when Shipman first climbed the steel tower. No one had ever really studied the eagles, and the birds were badly misunderstood. People said they sometimes carried off chickens, sheep, calves, even babies. Many bald eagles were shot. Their numbers fell. The national bird was much needed, but eagles were almost impossible to study. No human could get close enough to observe them without scaring them off. Then a Cleveland professor named Dr. Francis Herrick had an idea. Since eagles use and expand the same nest year after year, build a steel tower near a nest. Top it with a platform, pitch a tent on it, live there and make notes. The birds could be watched and photographed, and their family life followed through the seasons over several years. If he could prove his hunch that bald eagles did not eat farm animals but mostly fish and rats, then perhaps laws could be passed to protect the bird. But the professor couldn't spend months in a tower. He was needed in the classroom. So he found a willing fellow naturalist, Charles, to do the job. The tower was built next to an old hickory tree that held one of the largest bird nests in America. This amazing nest was located a mile south of Lake Erie near Vermilion. It was 12 feet tall, 8 feet wide, and weighed 4,000 pounds, about the size of 2 pickup trucks stacked on top of each other. Eagles had used it for 36 years. It seemed perfect. But then in March 1925, a storm blew down the tree with the nest. The eagles didn't seem too discouraged by this setback, for they were soon building a new nest in a red oak nearby. So the next winter the naturalists built a new steel tower. It was 4 feet square and 81 feet high, just a little higher than the eagle's nest. early and passed each day keeping track of all he saw. He brought along a camp stool, binoculars, camera, thermometer, notebooks, sandwiches, and a thermos of coffee. Lake Erie gleamed in the north. Fields, farms, and forests stretched out in the other directions. He enjoyed writing in his notebooks about mornings among the treetops before the coming of the sun, to know the woods as the birds see it, the rising sun, with shreds of clouds like handmaidens of brilliant color, the tree trunks and the earth below in purples and grays, but over there, outlined against the sky, the eagle. He observed his lofty neighbors, 3 beautiful white eaglets, bright-eyed and cute. What a joy it was to look into one of those great birds' nests and see the newly hatched fluffs of down. He was the first naturalist to observe many things, including the activity in the eagle nursery. He saw how the eaglet's downy baby feathers dropped away as they grew. The tiny feathers blew about the nest and even blew into his tent. He saw the babies awake, stretch, even yawn. He saw them play together, jumping on a stick, sinking in their talons, trying to flap into the air while carrying it. Charles wrote to his daughter, "My dear little Greta, up in the air. I am writing this from inside the tent way up on the top of the tower, and the old eagle sits a short way over in a tree. Baby eagle is crawling around on its feet and wings. It uses its wings for front legs like a little kitten." But there were more setbacks. A storm struck, and the next day Charles was shocked to find the old red oak topless and the great nest destroyed. He found the dead bodies of the little eaglets and saw the old eagles, sitting by the side and looking thin and gaunt, soaking wet. He was heartbroken. With sailing clouds, across the blue background, the researchers found a nest near Geneva and built another tower. All went well until one day when the eagles simply vanished. Senselessly, someone had climbed the tree and pulled the nest over, destroying the eggs. Despite these setbacks, Professor Herrick and his team still didn't give up. They found another nest in a great ash tree near Vermilion, 86 feet off the ground. The following spring, Charles was back in the tower, writing in his notebooks. And with sailing clouds, across the blue background you saw the eagle coming. With a great sweep she poised over the nest, and in one talon was a beautiful, shining fish. There in the air she held and swayed for fully 5 seconds, until the breeze lulled, whereupon she dropped down to those eager white babies. It was the most spectacular sight and always thrilled to me. The fish, if still alive, would flip and flop as the eaglets practiced their hunting skills. Another time he watched as for an hour she combed feather after feather with her beak, then she would smooth all down with her head. Each great white feather and the tail must be coming in the same way. Summer came and he suffered through terrible heat up to 104 degrees. Stripped in his undershorts, he noted the mother standing with her wings slightly lowered, shading her babies from the sun. Wonders filled his days. A great rainbow, one end resting on the lake, rising and arching until it merged in the gray mists. He watched as the scene changed. The lake was utterly blue, the horizon cut like a knife. Then, like a mirage in the sky, I could see the islands miles to the west off Sandusky Bay. On another day, the lake was a marvel of blue water ridged with whitecaps which chased each other off to the north in endless procession. And always there were the eagles. Great tumbling rolling globs of clouds against an exquisite blue, with the eagle sailing across the front of the clouds and the cobalt spaces in between. One foggy morning he found all nature moist and veiled in mist, an eerie, uncanny morning. I seemed to leave Earth behind and descend into another world. The nest was only a ghostly outline, but he could hear the eagle calling nearby. He watched the first flights of the eaglets. They nearly fell to the ground but then circled, pumping hard to return to the nest to rest and sleep. Less and less did they return, he noted. More and more the open woods and the shores of Lake Erie became their home. Years of watching eagles, Professor Herrick and Charles Shipman shared with others all they had learned. In 1940, their years of dedication paid off. Congress passed the Bald Eagle Act to protect the bird. A pair of determined Ohioans had helped save the American bald eagle.